My name is Jay, and I'll be asking you a few questions there.
Okay, I'm Dominic and I'm from Youth Action NI.
Okay. So, what motivated you to get into the work that you do now?
It's a sort of a strange one because I wanted to be an engineer and studied engineering at the college. But at 18, I started doing volunteer work with a cross-community organisation called Holiday Projects. And I was doing that like 3 nights a week, and I sort of enjoyed it. And it was during a time where young people sort of needed, programs to get them away from all the conflict that was happening. And I sort of enjoyed doing that, and I started doing lots of training courses then, sort of every weekend, and sort of 1-day courses and weekend courses. And then just sort of got into doing it more and more, and decided I was working full time at the same time, so I decided then to give up my job and go on to take a risk and go on to do youth work full time.
Yeah. What are some common misconceptions about men's health? Specifically, like men's mental health.
I think about men's mental health. I suppose young men are always taught, I suppose mostly by their fathers, to grow up and be strong and not to talk about feelings because it wasn't very manly. And that's the way you were brought up. So sometimes it's difficult, even if you were feeling a wee bit down on it, you couldn't talk to your father, you always talked to your mother. And I think that sort of broke down a wee bit of connection between a son and the father. And it was, the fact was like, it'll go away, don't worry about it. Or what I was told as a teenager, it's grown-up pains, it'll go away tomorrow, don't worry about it,
Yeah.
And that's just the way I was told and how to deal with it, it disappears.
Yeah. Does men's mental health have any barriers in employment?
It does. I suppose there's loads of young men. We all affected by mental health, and we all have good days and bad days. And I think sometimes if somebody maybe hasn't achieved academically at school, they believe that they're a failure. There's a lot of young men putting themselves down because they may have dyslexia or autism or have some kind of a hidden disability, and they're constantly putting themselves down. But I think the reason why they put themselves down is because others put them down, and sometimes it could be family members, peers, or even role models. It's putting the young people down, so they believe that they're worthless, and what's the point in getting jobs, because they may not academically have GCSEs or degrees, but because they don't have it, they believe that they can't get into employment. When they have they feel like maybe at times that they're going to be judged by others because they do have mental health issues, and they believe that they're the only one who has mental health and nobody else, but we all have mental health issues.
Yeah. Have you ever been discriminated against you because of your mental health?
I haven't, and this is before, Jay, it's like everybody suffers with mental health and we have bad days, but even at work currently, if you've got a stressful time that affects your mental health, you go home, you may be tired, you just don't want to go out with friends, stuff like that, because of what's going on, the pressures of work, but you hide it, And sometimes we will open up and speak to our line managers and say, look, I've had a bad week. And like my organisation would be very good that well-being is important, that you take time out and stuff like that. But I would never turn around and go on to a job or an interview and I can say, look, I've got mental health issues, because the first thing I'm going to think is they're going to turn around, I'm going to believe that they're not going to give me the job because I just have mental health issues.
Yeah. In what ways does representation in media affect perception on men's mental health?
Well, it's like anything, if it's males or females, but if you open up magazines and stuff like that and you see a picture of a male, they always have the biceps, six packs, stuff like that, and they're sending a message out there, I suppose, to young men that you have to be tough, and that's the only way to be successful. And then if you look at like social media posts and stuff, you see a lot of, like when you're go through your videos and stuff, you might see aggression, fights, or a knife crime, and if you spend a few seconds watching it, your next video is going to be as similar. So basically it's like reprogramming your brain to become more violent. So like the message out there is, although it's getting a lot more open now than it did in the past about encouraging, and young men should open up about mental health issues, or even if we're just feeling bad, it's just a matter of going to somebody like, I'm not feeling great today, and and people do accept it more than they did before. Like.
Yeah. Do you think men experience mental health issues differently than women?
We all experience mental health. Do we do it differently? I think maybe we deal with it differently. In the fact that women are more open, and girls will hug each other. Males can't hug males because it's not seen as manly. And sometimes all we need is just that wee hug, you know what I mean? And sometimes we all have experienced if a friend comes up to you and gives you a hug, it feels good because there's that comfort and touch. But a lot of young men don't do that because they hold it in. And what happens is what starts off as a small issue, it starts to snowball. And the more and more you hold it in here, the more and more it becomes more painful. When it becomes painful, then it means then it's more harder to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it. You're afraid, basically, in case someone judges you as because you're talking about a feeling that you've got a real severe mental health issue, or you're weak because you've talked about a feeling. You know what I mean? So we would experience it differently that way, that we hold it in, but it eats us up inside. Not only does it eat it up in the heart, but even in the gut as well. You know what I mean? And the gut affects everything else in the body as well.
Yeah. Do you think men are scared to talk about their mental health though?
Of course. And as I said before, some of the reasons why men are afraid to talk about it is the fact was because the way they're going to be judged by other people, that they're seen as they're being weak. In my job, I'm going out asking young people or talking to young people about opening up about mental health, and you're feeling bad, talk about it to a friend, even talking to yourself, or even writing it down in a journal. You're still expressing yourself, but not verbally. You might be doing it in writing, and but there's a lot of men out there who are just holding it in, and by holding it in, suppressing it, but also it's just has a negative impact on your overall health, not just your mental health.
Yeah. The term toxic masculinity has gained mass popularity in recent times. How do you feel that term would have an impact on men and boys?
Again, the impact is how somebody changes their image, their bodies, and that could be going to an extreme where people are taking part in transformation programs in different gyms, with like starving yourself over 6 or 7 weeks to try and get a six-pack and get a better muscle tone. You see a lot of young men now who are trying to get the muscle tone, but also going to sunbeds and stuff to try and bring out that tone better. But that's a false image, because that's not the real person behind the skin. It's a false image of that person, and most of those young men probably don't even feel good about themselves because they're still hurting inside. And it's basically like in social media or on your phone, like people will have a filter. They make themselves look younger, better looking skin or whatever. It's putting out a false image. And when people's going through like magazines, newspapers, social media, and they're seeing men out there with these tones, whether it's boxers or whether it's different types of influencers and stuff like that, they believe, because they're what they're doing, it's nearly like reprogramming your brain. This is what you actually should look like. Be tough, man up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So influencers like Andrew Tate, Logan Paul have caused a lot of controversy. Do you think this has a negative impact on men?
Yeah, well, we all hear in the news about Andrew Tate and his brother and what they've done over the years. The allegations around trafficking young women and stuff like that, and prostitution. But they're just the way they talk on social media, just around, especially like young women. And they feel like they're the person in power, because influencers, usually what happens is they're putting a message across that currently I'm in power and I control you. So if a young person is watching a particular sort of, if it's Snapchat or social media, any of those, and they're looking, for example, Andrew Tate, they're listening to his stories constantly every single day. If you listen to his stories or any of those influencers every single day, they're reprogramming your brain to make you believe that they are right and you are wrong and you must follow this person. And again, when we're talking about just anybody that's in boxing, there's people who go into a boxing ring and they believe that they go on and they're constant winners all the time. But also what they're doing is they're putting that message again that you have to be, if you want to be strong, you have to be tough. You have to be tough, but you have to be tough mentally, and physically. But you don't need to have like a muscle tone or a six pack, stuff like that. We can also, I suppose, improve our mindsets, change our mindsets to be more positive and acceptance of other people and not listening to stories of influencers.
Yeah. Can you give an example of a positive experience which has helped you and made you feel more comfortable in the town?
I think coming into the town, I think it's like, as long as you're with, I suppose, with friends. I mean, we live in a great city here, and when I go out with friends, I'm always out with friends. We've got great people from many different cultures coming here. We've got great places to go out and eat, cinemas. We've got lots of things here, and it's about getting into the city more. But it's also like about feeling safe in the city as well. Because when you come in, you hear stories like on social media and stuff about violence within the town or fights. I want to go on somewhere and I want to feel comfortable, but also want to feel safe, not only for me, but also for my friends as well. And if we do, when we go out, I suppose we do work out where we're getting home started a wee bit more earlier instead of staying out to like 1:30 when everybody's trying to get home at the same time. But just to enjoy ourselves out in the city, we tend now to come out a wee bit earlier and get home earlier. But we've got a great city, and I think it's important that people that explore not just the city centre, but explore places like St Columba's Park House. We've got the connection from the Peace Bridge that people can come back and forward. There's a lot of development and improvements in the city, and I think that people that's living here have to get out and get a nosy a wee bit more on what's going on, whether it's the city walls or the museums, and just to be feeling more proud. The more you feel proud of your own city, the more you're going to feel comfortable to yourself, but how you're going to sell it to others as well.
Yeah. How can people in the city support you or your organisation in supporting equality?
Young people play a big role, and the reason why young people play a big role is because they are the future leaders, and it's trying to empower young people to have a voice. It's important that at different times of the year, we've got lots of times where we're celebrating, for example, when we're celebrating Pride, we're always encouraging most young people, as many young people, just to use their voice, but not only use their voice within the city, but how can we encourage young people to use their voice with politicians, government, but other people, just to, especially maybe people in the older generation, they understand that everybody is different, and no matter who you are, we're all human beings, and we've all been put onto this earth, and we all have a reason to be here. But what happens is, you didn't choose to be here. You didn't choose your name or your identity. It was your parents done all that. And as a young person, we don't have much choices in life through school, education, because we're always told what to do by others. And so it means it more difficult for us to empower ourselves to speak out, because that's not how we were trained. We were trained to do what we were told. And it's only when you become, I suppose, a teenager, you become a bit more confident, and especially young people is getting involved with youth programs and stuff, that they gain the confidence and they find themselves inside, but then they're empowered to go out there and use their voice and put your message across to everybody else in society, I'm a human being and I have a right to who I am, and it's important that we respect everybody as an individual human being.
Yeah. What's one thing you would like to see a change in the city for men's mental health?
I've seen changes over the last couple of years. I would just love to see more men going and socialising, being able to feel safe as them as an individual, and be able to speak to their friends if they're feeling down and out without being slagged or their friends taking the hand out of them. Because it's not easy. If you have an issue or concern, it's not easy to talk about it. And if you trust a friend, and we all know who our good friends is, so if we go and trust that trusted friend and speak to them about when we're feeling bad, they'll accept you. But we should be able to do that to everybody. But also, we all have a responsibility to encourage our friends to open up to us. And if I notice like a friend is feeling down or out, if I notice that, I feel that I have a responsibility to ask him, or to try and get him to understand that I know he's not feeling right, and just to let him know that I'm here. I'm not going to ask pressing questions, but I'm just going to say, look, I understand you've not been feeling the best the last couple of weeks, but if you need anything, just give me a wee ring. And I think it's important that men have to support other men and encourage other men to speak out as well.
How do you think young people can bring a positive change in the city?
As I was saying earlier on, that young people are our future leaders, but young people are also our role models. And one of the reasons why I'm saying that is because young people, things change all the time, society changes all the time. And what I faced as a young person is completely different to what you're facing as a young person. So we need young people to take that lead role and open up and speak. But young people should be the people also who's going to sell their community. We want the city to be a child-friendly city. We want all young people to feel safe in this city. And the only way we can do that is if young people start to respect themselves, but it's also important that they respect everybody else. Nobody wants to walk around any street in any city and see young people being aggressive, getting into fights, conflict and stuff like that. That's not what life's about. Their life should be experimenting, enjoying, adventure, learning new programs, courses, stuff like that. We want young people to get, every young person has talent inside them. Every young person's got goals, ambitions for life. Sometimes it's family, friends or peers that stops you from achieving those goals or your ambitions in life. And we need young people to step outside their comfort zone and get more involved in programs within the city, or even try something different. Set yourself a goal to try playing the drums. You may not like it, but you've tried it, and or try different things. We've got so much going on in the city that young people can take part in. Try things out, and that helps the young person with the confidence. But I think friends have to, especially young people, friends have to look out for each other in a safe way rather than being a bystander. If your friend's unhappy, young people again should be able to express their interest and say to them that they're like, I noticed you're feeling a bit unhappy, no matter what age you are. And I think that if young people are more respectful to others, also to be respectful when you go into a shop, a supermarket, whatever. If there's elderly people in there, the more young people show altruism, kindness to other people, it improves their mental health. It improves their resilience as they get older. So when things get difficult, it's easier to deal with it. Young people that turn around and say, well, why should we respect older people? They don't respect us. Someone has to make the first step. And the young people are the only people who has the key to that, because the older people aren't going to do it, because their belief says we don't respect young people because they only hear the bad stories. The media only share the bad stories. It's important that the young people share the good stories with their friends and also with people, everybody else in the community. Just help out a wee bit and share a bit of kindness, and that improves. It's a small step to a big success.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.